So Harsh, let's start with you, right? So having co-founded API Holdings, I know we are in the topic of how do we solve for personalized experiences in the age of AI. And AI is a difficult, like, it's an ocean of possibilities and everyone has its own perception. And when you have been, working with such a huge brand where you have an online pharmacy and diagnostic platform, you have a B2B marketplace and seller platform in the name of Retail IO, and then you have a consultation and EMR platform, DocOn, and so on, right? So I'm guessing the problem of personalization is even larger for you. And when you talk about personalized experiences for each of these brands, how do you go about defining that? Especially when each user in each of these brands is unique in its own way in terms of the medical problems that they have, right? So how do you go about that?
Look, I think it's of course, the problem is multifold for us, given you have a B2B business, a B2C business. I think it's simple things, right? I think in India, you will need to localize content. You will need to look at user journeys holistically. I think the one biggest learning we've seen is, I think a lot of our growth teams, or most growth teams usually are very emotional about what they've created. I think you need to be reactive to it, right? I think for our B2B business, we know Bollywood and cricket will work, right? So there's no point, while I have to sell medicines, I'll have to make it in a way where I'll have to get it, which I cannot do for my Farm Easy business because it's sensitive, it's patient healthcare. And I have to appreciate or be candid that he's not, and we have to be very, very timeful because it is not like I can keep sending you, aaj dawai le lo, right? That's absolutely the wrong thing to do. I think we have to be very subtle about it when we're dealing with patients, very, very careful. I think we have, 53 user journeys. But the same thing when we go to our B2B business, we just go berserk because that's to a retailer where I need to engage more with him. I need to be in the face with him. And diagnostics is a different problem altogether, right? I think there you need, I think we are already using AI for accuracy. Microbiology, I think, was one big area which was a manual test. We're using it for accuracy and also going to consumers and saying, simplified, 99.5% is our accuracy rate in terms of turnaround. So you get a 4-hour test report at your home. Now that is all, one is a journey part of it, but a lot of AI is being also used in the back-end warehouse operations and everything, right? So my biggest, at least cue to folks out here is, I think people need to be nimble, agile. You need to react. You need to look at your data, what works, not be emotional about it. I think as marketing guys, people feel this campaign will work, yeah, it works here, it doesn't work. And I think in India, the beauty is every state is different, right? So you will need to localize it. You will need to be very, very cautious, very, very anecdotal. North, you need to be loud. You need to show, boss, main sabse bada hu. I can't do that in South. I'll be like, you have to be very, very simple, humble, right? And that's the beauty and the fun of it. I think you can't have a one-size-fits solution. You need to use tech. A lot of people say, how do you use tech? I said, tech is an enabler. But to build all of these journeys, you need to use tech. I can't just be doing this manually, right? So I think very, very interesting for us. And I think the problem, you keep learning and you keep evolving.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you don't automate it with the scale at which you are, how are you even going to go about it, right? So any more thoughts on how does AI enable every step of the way of personalization for you?
Sure. I think, look, right, as I said, on the consumer business, right from the time my customer comes in, whether he's an acute customer or a chronic customer, right? When I say acute, you just ordered a crocine. It's a very different journey for you as compared to someone who's diabetic, right? And I think giving the power to the patient, I think that's been the key, right? I think a lot of time people ask us, we were not the first guys in the e-pharmacy space. We were the 6th, 7th player in that space. For us to become number one, I think we realized that you can't be in your face. Patient will be, you have to trust the journey. I think we build use cases, nudge him, help him. Especially in our case, it's perhaps the most complex ordering. In any e-commerce, you go to an app, you can order. Here, you first need to get a prescription, upload the prescription, Then you need to figure out whether those medicines are available. Someone's digitizing that at the back end. Then you get a fill rate, and you need visibility saying whether I'm going to get my medicines or not. You get your clothes, one day later you're like, okay, yaar, theek hai. Nahi hai. Grocery also people are like, fine. Here you're like, boss, I need to be very, very clear because someone's health is at risk. So I think without being in the face, right? So a lot of people say, I remember when we started off, we used to send like 24 notifications. We realized that this is too much communication, right? Saying, let's give them communication. Yahan hai medicine. I said, let's not do that. We came back. I think we've now realized what the sweet spot is, right? And I think a lot of this is learning over the years. But I think in an industry like healthcare, and I think for most powerful brands, you can't be in the face. I think you have to be subtle. You have to be there at the point where they need. You need to be present, but you can't be on the face. I think the Indian consumer is now very smart. With so many brands out there, with so much communication coming in, I think it's important to just ensure that you are subtle, you are using the right technology. And as I said, all of these touch points, right? If the medicine is not available, I need to go back and communicate to him. He needs to be aware. Even pushing an alternate, I need to be really, really careful, right? Like, we know the beyond a point, if it goes high, we get customer complaints saying, why are you pushing alternates? Is it for high margins? Is it because you want margins? No, we don't want margins. It's to ensure the fill rate, right? So I think healthcare is fairly complex, but I think we've been able to improve it, touch wood, because of the right use of technology. Similarly, if you look at our B2B business, right, I think, again, the same challenges. Today, we are the largest. For people who are not aware, we have 1 lakh plus pharmacies in the country purchasing medicines from us, right? So like a city like Bombay will not have medicines if we stop supplies. That's the power and impact at our back end, right? And for that, again, you need to create journeys. There you need to create local content. You will need to figure out how do you, again, behaviors are very different. He will order at night when he's closing the shop. So how do you remind him at that point of time? All of those small data points. I think at our B2B business, we have 52 attributes for a retailer, which we measure depending on what is there, right? Right from whether he is a 24/7 medical shop to something as simple as does he have a fridge or not, right? So it's a lot of data analytics to kind of reach here. But I think using that in the right way is important. You can have like multiple attributes. I'm sure a lot of people here look at data in multiple ways. I think what you do of that is really important. And that has to translate into your business matrix. Otherwise, all of this is just a lot of back-end work happening without impacting the business.
Absolutely. If you don't look at data, you are probably blinded by your own assumptions, right? So thank you for that. Kanika will go to you next. So you had digital content for 2 very different apps, right? One is a telco app, and then there is a movies and TV app. So the problem statements and goals are also different. And then what I'm also wondering is that you have that X factor of scale, because Vodafone itself has 200 million plus users, right? So I'm very intrigued to understand how do you leverage this X factor to cross-pollinate behavioral learnings from one app to another and probably deliver an even better personalization maybe?
So firstly, we spend a lot of money, we.
I'm sure.
So, on a lighter note. We were having conversation in the back, and I turned back and I was saying that there is AI, which is very fanciful. It's great. We all are gung-ho, but I think in today's time and post-COVID world, and I'll come back to us. In post-COVID world, the consumer he or she knows what they want. There is no bullshitting. So in a world like that, you want to have AI working for a brand for what the consumer wants and not what you want. Most of the time, and I think the closest, and I want to give an example of another brand here, was one of the ads of Cadbury's where they said it's not an ad. I don't know how many people here in the audience remember it, but it's about post-COVID when the world shut down and small businesses were not doing anything, people were really struggling, Cadbury's went to the likes of Shah Rukh Khan, who was actually talking about इस साल दिवाली में आप अपने बाजू वाले लोकल वेंडर से सामान खरीदिए, and each time through AI in that particular language they were able to talk about, for example, in Bombay, अच्छा लोखंडवाला में social से खरीद लो इधर से. So look at generalization to regionalization, localization for the larger part of the society. And then they went to the retailers and said, hey, we can't do this for so many people. So here is the link. Go and update and talk about it. And I mean, the kind of stuff it created, both from the perspectives of business to business and business to consumers. Yeah. So to me, that's one of my favorite examples from consciously using AI for the betterment of our consumers. If I say society, then I'll sound very, very philosophical. Yeah, coming to your question. So yeah, we are a telecom company. Our bread and butter is to sell mobile connections. But like every other company, we want to be deeply enrooted with the consumer. So why do most people come to a telecom company for partnership, for distribution, to reduce the CAC cost, for scale? I actually can very nicely say that I actually know what you did last summer. You were on Vodafone, or we rather. Because we know, so what do we do? How do we make this relevant? So on the Super app, which is the V app, we want to engage with consumers like you for things which are relevant to you. So whether it is entertainment, which is one of the 3 things in India which sells, so whether it's video, whether it's audio, whether it's job and education, or whether it's gaming, or whether it's mind medicines. By the way, I should have known you last year. I really struggled with my cancer medication for a year and a half. So all of those use cases, those are needs of a consumer for every day, right? Now that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get closer to the consumer and be able to help them in all forms and facets. Now, what do we do and how do we do that? From the perspective of content, what we do is we marry the consumption data. So I know in one of the apps like VMTV, who's watching what, what's hot. We are an aggregator app, so we work with almost everybody. So I know that X content is very, very popular. Y content, so I know genre, I know how much time you spent, I know what you were watching, I know which brand were you watching. We triangulate that data with your consumer data. So you are not just a demographic for me from male, female, 15, 24, whatever. I know from your caller tunes what language you speak. Yeah. I know from your logic of circle, which circle you are in, therefore, which is your first language or second. I know from the kind of communication you're doing on our apps, which language are you speaking in from our outbound. So what we do is we take all of this learning with the consumption learning, triangulate it, build our own, actually I'm very proud of it, we built our own models internally, and at one point in time, I used to run specifically for Vodafone Play about 700 cohorts.
Wow. I think that's needed, right? For
yes, 700 cohorts of different users, because he rightly said, India is a country in many countries. Languages, liking, men, women, I mean, there is bifurcation for everything. Yeah? So each of these cohorts are very, very important cohorts for me. And a telecom company speaks to everybody. So from our staff to the CEO and the likes, how can you have a communication with all of them in the same lens? So this is what we do. We use predictive analysis, live, take data from the telco piece, take data from our partnership piece, and then reach to a consumer. And to me, what's a win there? To me, the win is when your MOUs increase. I'm not saying MAUs increase. Your MOUs increase, your streamers increase, because that is when you're truly engaging a consumer. And of course, we have multiple, like I said, multiple comms. Now, for example, you might be interested in listening to a podcast on how to raise the next funding. I might be listening to Sadhguru for peace in life. He might be saying, how do I go, to the next diving spot, and so on and so forth. So for me and for all of us, it's very critical that we find cohorts like that, reach out to the consumer. In fact, when we started this journey from V Movies and TV, we went to the V Super App. And if you came to recharge, or if you came to, check your balance or complain, you could also watch all of what I mentioned, right? And we understood from the consumer that, hey, this person is engaging with us in this, that, or the other. I think the next great thing, that's something I'm very excited about, would be in most of the super apps, if you are able to understand what each consumer is viewing or consuming a service, and how do you marry all of that to one consumer and upsell. So from VMTV, we were able to do that on the back of content, we were engaging with the consumer. We upsold. In a country like India, growth is great, but there are only 42 million paid subscribers from OTT perspective. Yeah. Most of the players bank on telco companies to loosen their purse. In a case like that, what happens here is that you actually know that I can go literally to one Shivani or one Harsh who's used my games, who's my prepaid customer, so I can cross-sell from prepaid. I can cross-sell from prepaid to postpaid, in postpaid to a higher pack, on the back of content. Yeah. And that's what we learned, and that's what the use cases we are building all across. Very interesting piece. And I was quite surprised, actually, and we've done it very beautifully. We are very clear that we are, like you said, we are 200 million subscribers. We frown upon wasting our money. So the task at hand is, how do you partner with brands and reach out to a consumer and actually help them? Yeah, so it's literally like we are in this together. And I think we walk the talk. I'm not just saying that all of us believe so. I hope I answered your question.
Beautifully summarized, because you have a responsibility to deliver to the consumer, and if you don't, I think what stood out for me is that you talked a lot about building that customer 360, even when your user is not on one single platform. And I'm not sure if a lot in your domain do that to that extent. I'd love for you to throw more light on it. But what I'm interested to understand more, and I'm sure the audience would want to know, is what was the impact when you started doing AI algorithmic automation on the top of customer 360 data? What was the relative impact like on which key KPIs for you?
So 2 KPIs clearly for us, like any digital ecosystem. One is streamers or buyers, and another is, since we're talking from the consumption point of view, consumption. So if the streamers did not increase, that means whatever you did just went down the toilet. So the KPIs we have same as we were speaking about. How do you convert the mouse to the DAOs? And how do you convert the DAO to a paying consumer? To answer your question, we've been able to do that from the perspective of our content app. When we put a lighter version of that on the main app, we saw that the consumption increased by 400% in a period of 6 months' time.
Wow.
Yeah, I got a very fat check that year. So, but having said that, and we learned, and we were like, wow. Okay, this is great. So we were a free app from free app, we started segmenting. We realized, okay, the country is not willing to pay. What do you do? On the back of content, the user or consumer will use more data, and therefore he or she will end up consuming data. So I think it's a narrative which all of us are building. In my personal capacity, I believe that it's a long journey home. Specifically for a country like ours, there is growth from the perspective of the country, and there is growth from the mindset of the consumer where he or she is willing to pay. Most of the consumers still in the country are not willing to pay. So to me, what kicks me is how do I build models where I can find a fair share in the wallet of the consumer. If you can spend, if 60 million people can buy food on Zomato, including our driver, I saw him, by the way, eating pav bhaji one day, and I said, "Kahan se order kiya?" Zomato se, madam. I'm like, "Acha, mera app dekha? Wo kya hai?" So, paise doge? Nahi. So, 60 million people there. Videos was about 140 million people who were buying, specifically women who were shopping to glory. The men were not very pleased, but yes, we must be narcissistic. Third, from the perspective of travel. I mean, we are back to pre-COVID levels. Look at the use cases. Everybody was doing everything.
Makes sense. Thank you so much, Kanika. That was very insightful. We'll come to you now, Nikhil. I don't think the problem statement is any different for you, right? Because you head growth and partnerships for a diverse portfolio of products in Times Internet. And these are some of the largest consumer internet brands, right? Times of India, Times Points, Ghana, etc. So what are some of the personalization features that have worked for you, and how have you adopted them in the product? Like how have you integrated that with the product?
So you're rightly said it's a diverse portfolio that Times Internet holds, and how we are different from we, as Kanika was mentioning, that all the businesses are different in their own way, right? And you must have known that probably out of these 18, 20 businesses, 10 at least either have been on the top charts or they are still on the top charts, be it ClickBuzz or MX Player. Ghana has been #1, Times of India. I think a significant factor for the growth story of these businesses has been the personalization, because we are a content company, right? And every of these businesses, the core part, the spine is content. To give you an example, when I saw Ghana like 6 years before, the first recommendation was a plain vanilla playlist, which was same for everyone. Now, what you see today, if you see Ghana, I can give you an example. If there are two people in the same company in the same metro city, if they go back on a Friday evening, probably one would listen to a playlist which would be comprised of Kanye or Skrillex, Maroon 5. And another one probably would, it's the same office, the same probably profile, would have a recommendation of Bhojpuri songs, right? Party Bhojpuri songs. So, this worked in a dual way. We started acquiring more regional content, which wasn't there initially, right? Rajasthani, Bhojpuri, Bihari content. And then we started building those algorithms which gradually started acquiring data sets about customers and then started recommending them. So just after doing this, we saw like a huge growth in terms of content consumption on Ghana. Similarly for MX Player, if you see, which has been the largest in terms of OTT for tier 2, tier 3 cities, the algorithms for MX Takatak, which we were discussing, right? We took a cue from that and started iterating those algorithms for MX Takatak, which is a short video platform. And we saw the average daily time spent for a consumer after 2 years shot from 5 minutes to somewhere around 18 minutes, right? And then again, the personalization is not just a one-way thing for Times as a core. We started, interacting with the content creators, and we started recommending them what kind of content that they should create, right? That helped them to save effort and monetize in a better way, according to the demography of the users that we've had. And I think by the end of the merger of MX Takatak, it had 150 million monthly active users, right? So similarly, the personalization has been the core of Times Internet products. If I give you another example, at Times Prime, which we had a purple carpet yesterday for Mission Impossible, and the tickets sold like hotcakes, right? So, so this is just because of the algorithms that we have had, if you know about Times Prime, the subscription aggregator. Similarly, there's another business which is Times Cards. there was an event in December, I guess, that we did with A.R. Rahman on Times Card, which is a co-brand credit card with HDFC. One ticket's value was somewhere around $15,000, and we have sold all the tickets. Right, so I think the algorithms that each business has their own way of working on personalization, and the way the knowledge sharing happens across the businesses, I think all of these businesses has been doing great just because of the fact that our personalization works in multi ways, not just in the output but also on the input side, right? So we also work with the supply side, with the content creators, with the content, where we are sourcing that content from. Why are we sourcing that? It should be regional. We have been very heavy on regional. Even on NewsPoint, you can see that we have NewsPoint in 14 languages, right? And I think that's the story of why NewsPoint has been successful. Personalization to that extent that if you see a Vivo device and there's a lock screen product which is being powered by NewsPoint, if you open any article, you would not see any competition ad, right? You would not see an ad from Oppo, right? So personalization to that level, I think
You don't give anybody the chance, by the way.
so I think my takeaway would be, if you have to ask me like what, I think there is something that we shouldn't do. That's what I have learned in all these businesses. Your personalization should be very inconspicuous to a user, right? We as humans, we don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah.
We are free animals, right? We value things more if we discover them ourselves, right? If we explore them. So I think your personalization should be in a way that a user feel that, okay, I've just explored it. It's a good thing. I want to share it with people. So I think that's something that you should build in your DNA. And second thing, personalization should not just be about the content. It should be about everything else that you're doing, be it CRM, as Harsh rightly mentioned, that they were sending 24 notifications, right? Now we don't, right? Even in TimeSprint, we have learned that. Don't send so much. Just send very few, and then you'll get good outputs out of it. So personalization has to work. It has to be in your DNA, right? Don't build a product and then incorporate personalization. Just from the day one, you think that, okay, I am building something which would be highly personalized for all my users, right? And in that fashion, you would be able to generate the maximum out of personalization. So I think that's my key output. And one more thing, personalization is hard, yes, right? So if you're not able to achieve that on day one, please, don't worry. It'll happen. You slowly, gradually keep iterating, reiterating on your personalization engines. Recommendation engines are hard. I mean, not everyone can do that. So it takes time.
No, I think I can personally vouch for the effectiveness of this regional personalization that you're talking about, because Ghana, when it was like, less than 5 million MAUs back
Right.
6 to 7 years ago,
Correct.
I used to see campaigns talking about, I'm Gujarati, they used to talk about, the songs that I listen to in Gujarati, and I used to personally go and click when I'm completely ignoring other music streaming apps. And as a MoEngage customer, we used to see a massive uptick in terms of the, CTRs and conversions that you used to get out of it, right? But I'll ask you one last question. I'm getting a lot of comments on we're out of time, so. So one last question further to that, right? So because you have experimented a lot with AI and, personalization, do you have any top-of-the-mind, game-changing algorithms that can uplift or elevate the customer experience directly? What is the trick?
Wow. We should take notes.
As you were mentioning that, have you watched any one of you, you must have watched the Black Mirror's latest
of
episode,
course.
Joan
Yeah,
is
yeah.
awful, right? So I think pretty soon we would be reaching there. Every user would have a different set of product, real-time synthesized for them. On a lighter note, yes. But as far as AI, I have a slightly different view. I think AI has been there for a while. Right? When Google launched their algorithms, the search engine, right? That was an AI for us, because the moment we complete a sentence on the search bar, the answers were there, right? It was like some god is sitting there who knew already that what I'm looking for. So that was AI then. Today we are seeing these LLM models, these large language models and GPTs, which are giving me a much better textual format of what I'm looking for in a much more elaborative way. So we have been using, from TimeSprint's perspective or the businesses, we had been using search engine optimization, which was magical AI then, and even we are riding on this wave also. I mean, if you see, there's a campaign which Times Prime launched just a couple of days back, which is Mighty Memberships. That campaign has been entirely created by these latest AI, breakthroughs. The entire billboard, creatives, banners, they have been, synthesized by these GPT models and the new tools that are powered by these AI. So, and as far as our content business is concerned, see, journalism is a serious job, right? Yeah. It needs a physical presence. Yeah. So we can't ask a tool to create a news for me, right? So, but our entertainment segment, yes, we are testing waters with these tools. Yeah. We are, and but that these things are highly moderated by our edited team. From a marketing perspective, yes, I think pretty soon we would be able to see, you know that I think in 2015, Google launched its universal app campaign. Yeah. Before that, I had to have like multiple guys bidding every day, sitting, reiterating campaigns. But the moment UAC comes, we don't need that. The campaign learns automatically itself, right? And delivers good results. I think pretty soon we would be able to see that these creatives, banners, ad sets, they would be automatically created based on the businesses that I am giving an input, and based on the demography and the budget that I'm putting, and it'll keep on iterating itself and maximize on the outputs. So I think that's what it'll be heading to. Apart from this, I mean, a couple of my businesses, which I can say, let's say there's a news channel in Odisha, which is launched an entirely AI created avatar of a news anchor, right? Yeah. Is that in the fold? Maybe yes, maybe no. I can't comment on that. Yeah. But yes, definitely. I think as a content company, we are getting far more creative with these tools, right? With the right prompts and with the right set of inputs, we would be able to create more engaging content. That is something, yes, we are definitely doing.
Thank you for that.
You are the one behind this. I've been wanting to ask a question. Now, on a serious note, I mean, I would like my news to be personal. I want you to deliver news to me. I'm not sure that I like the thought of, well, I'm in the content business myself, but I'm not sure that I like the idea of a stoic AI, whatever, sitting there and giving news, which might be, today's news is that 100 people died.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's not what we are doing right now. There's a channel in Odisha who has done that. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. So news is a serious business. It has to have that emotion behind it. And that's why, the physical presence is very important for the news. But for the content business, that's what I was saying, that this entire content pieces that we are generating with these tools, these are highly moderated with our edit team. Right? So it's not just plain vanilla output of a tool that is going out to you. Yeah, so you are safe.
I think a quick rapid fire, one-word answer between the three of you. What is the most reliable way to measure the success and effectiveness of some of these AI algorithms? Harsh.
Danda. I think that's the only word, at least I understand as an entrepreneur. I think no other metric, right? Everything at the end of the day has to lead to at least being very, I think, objective about it. And I see a lot of young startups make this mistake, right? Of course, here we are large platforms, but people get fancied about DAOs and MAOs. Yes, they are great, but at the end of the day, they have to lead to transactions. All of us here have a solid base transaction, and then we're trying to cross-sell, right? So people at times select the wrong metric according to me and get excited. And I've seen a lot of people do that. And I think it's important. India is a transaction-led country. India, I think she also rightly said, people are not willing to pay. Maybe it'll change, but at the end of the day, it has to lead to transactions, right? You look at any large company, Zomato, for years, they were doing only menu. I think from food discovery, they started monetizing. They realized, boss, money is in the delivery business. Look at any of these large startups today. I think people have moved away from being just data-driven and engagement to, I think, output matrix, right? So I think that's the one word.
Very well said. Everything else is vanity. Huh?
I'm wondering now what to say. Actually, Dhanda to the part two, because I think tech, we are a very advanced country when it comes to converting consumers. It's easy to convert a first-time consumer. I mean, ads, AI, this, that, the frills, sure. I think to get a repeat consumer is what is the key. And I fully agree with you. I mean, I should perhaps take you in one of my meetings where, when people come back and say, so many million consumers. पैसे कितने आए? 4 लाख रुपए किए थे मैंने. So from perspective of business, dhanda. From the perspective of business and personally what would be my kick would be, of course, a consumer who's a happy consumer and keeps coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think for me, because being a content company, the one thing that I would want to measure would be the responsible engagement. I would term it that responsible engagement because creating an engagement probably is easy for content companies. If the keto diet is in, I just have to, diss that diet. This is wrong that you have been doing. And the moment I do that, I get a lot of engagement around it. So I think I should be the thing that I want these tools to create, how responsible they are in terms of creating that engagement out. I think that's something.
I would just summarize by saying responsibly engage, make sure they come back to you again and again, and then ensure dhanda at the end of the day is maximum.
We all need our paychecks. And the
Thank you.
bonuses also.
Thank you so much for that. You guys were an amazing speaker lineup, amazing insights. A big round of applause for them. Thank you so much, guys.